I'd like to welcome everybody out to my presentation this evening. Thank you for coming out. I do ask that if you have any questions, you hold them to the end, at which point we'll have a brief question and answer session. Today you find more and more people mentioning progressives or progressivism, from political commentators like Glenn Beck to Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. It is a topic being widely discussed in some forums and not at all in others. Progressive ideals are at odds with the intent of the Founding Fathers and their views on individual liberty. In this presentation, I will share with you some of progressivism's tenets, compare them to the primary focus of the Founding Fathers, and show how the implementation of progressive ideals has slowly been chipping away at our individual liberties. First of all, progressives do come from both sides of the political aisle, not from one side or the other. In a National Archives review of cartoons from the 1912 presidential election, it points out that notable progressives included both President Teddy Roosevelt and President Woodrow Wilson. Progressives believe that individuals are too selfish to do what is right for the community. In our quest to improve ourselves, to improve the lives of our families, we're not going to be focused on what's best for the community. We're always going to make the selfish decisions in doing what's best for us. They felt that people needed guidance from elite experts, as pointed out by Weston Schambra in the Progressive Movement and the Transformation of American Politics. Progressives felt that elite experts needed to guide the people who can see where history is taking us. Progressives were huge fans of the theory of evolution. They felt that if evolution was great in explaining science, then why not apply it to government and in governing the people? The same authors in the same article point out that progressives felt that individual rights are a gift from the state, therefore the needs of the state come first before the needs of the individual. So your rights or your decisions aren't as important as what happens for the state or what needs to be done by the state for the community. The Founding Fathers strove to found a country where individuals would best be able to succeed through the exercise of their individual liberties. As pointed out in the Declaration of Independence, the Founding Fathers believed that our rights came directly from God. James Madison stated in the conformity of the plan to Republican principles, the government should be derived from representatives of the people and not from an elite group of citizens. The best people to represent us, as felt by the Founding Fathers, were those that came from amongst us, our co-workers, our family, our friends, those that lived in our communities. Madison also pointed out in the Union as a safeguard against domestic factions and insurrections. The first object of government is to protect the diversities and the faculties of men. We all know that everyone is blessed with different gifts, talents, and abilities, and being able to use those freely determines where we get in life. The Founding Fathers felt government should stay out of the way and protect those differences so we can exercise those abilities the best that we could to improve our own lives, and in the process would lift up the community. This is a copy of the Declaration of Independence. It is a very simple one-page document. Although simple, it is also a very powerful document. In it, the Founding Fathers outlined the most basic principles on the foundation of government. They declared the origins of man's rights, as we just discussed. Their grievances with the current government in England were outlined. They also signed it with the strongest pledge that they could. These men pledged their lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. This very unique document has been and should continue to be a beacon of liberty. It should serve as a reminder of our responsibility to continually protect the liberties that we enjoy, that these brave men carved out for us. Progressive ideals slowly chip away at these individual liberties the Founding Fathers desire to protect. Anderson points out in The Legacy of Progressivism that many of the policies implemented during World War I as part of the war effort disappeared at the end of the war, with the exception of the Federal Reserve and the income tax. So the federal government controls the flow of money and how we have access to that money, and at the end of the day it also states how much of that money we get to keep. There's also been a steady increase in the regulation in different areas of our lives. Trigg, in an article entitled "Wabash Valley Woman Didn't Realize Second Cold Medicine Purchase Violated Drug Laws," points out that a grandmother went and purchased some sinus medication for her son. A couple days later, she had a grandchild that was sick and went and purchased medication for that grandchild. The computer system flagged her and she was arrested. The state of California is also set to increase regulation over large televisions. Lifshire wrote in an LA Times article entitled "California Appears Poised to be First to Ban Power-Guzzling Big Screen TVs," that the state of California was considering legislative changes and regulations to state how much energy TV can use and the standards that the manufacturers had to use in making those TVs and selling them in the state. In conclusion, progressive ideals are at odds with the intent of the Founding Fathers, particularly their views on individual liberties. Progressive tenets do not match up to the primary focus of the Founding Fathers, and progressive policies implemented over the years have slowly chipped away at some of our individual liberties. As progressive policies continue to be implemented by both major political parties, we will slowly lose the ability to determine our own success along our own chosen path. This concludes the main portion of my presentation this evening. Would anyone like to ask any questions?
I would. What do you consider the main goal of progressives?
Your question was what I would consider the main goal of progressives. Great question. I would consider the main goal of progressives to be able to set up a government in which it is guided by those elite experts that we mentioned before in our article. Progressives have always been big on the redistribution of wealth. If you look back at the Progressive Party platform from 1912, it's mentioned there. They want to be able to pass legislation to make an electorate dependent upon the benevolence of those that are in power. Therefore, they have an electorate that's going to continually re-elect them, so they keep getting those things that are going to help them out. Progressives also want to spread their system of government and beliefs throughout the world. In the beginning of the 20th century, it was via World War I to spread democracy. Today, there's a big push internationally to redistribute wealth from industrialized nations to third world nations via global warming initiatives. Thank you for your questions. Are there any other questions?
What are some things we can do to make sure our individual liberties are protected?
Your question was, what are some things we can do to protect our individual liberties? Great question. I believe, first and foremost, we need to make sure that we are educated and informed. We need to make sure that we are aware of our history, what our rights are, where they come from. We also need to make sure that we know what's going on, not just on a national level, but on a local level as well. Share that knowledge with those around us and become involved in the community and share with our representatives our thoughts. I'd like to thank everyone for your participation and questions and coming out for the presentation this evening, and have a good night.